And you're tagged.
And we're live, Shane.
Oh, I almost ended the broadcast. That would have been hilarious.
That would have been the fastest live stream ever. Less than 2 seconds. Clay would have been so proud.
I literally, as soon as you had to go live, I hit it too, and it's like end broadcast, and I'm like, this is what happens when Clay's not here.
Thank you, StreamYard, for putting in one extra click for a governor to not allow it to end. Otherwise, we would have never been given any controls again.
You know what? This makes me feel bad because then this makes me feel like people think we actually need Clay. Like we can't survive without Clay. And we can, right? Like, because we both put our pants on every day, I think, mostly by ourselves. I don't know. Your lovely wife might help you. I might YouTube it on how to do it. But yeah, we don't have to have Clay, but it is helpful. So, hey, guys, guess what? It's a sneak stream. We've got a little fun surprise for you guys. We're going to do a roster review live on air because a number of you message us on the YouTubes and say, why don't you guys ever do stream the live streams? Or no, that's not what they say. Why don't you guys ever post the roster reviews? And I don't know why you talk like that. Maybe someone sat on your nuts. I'm not really sure what happened. Maybe you got hermetically sealed so you don't have kids anymore. I'm not sure what happened, but
this one's going off the rails. This is how all the roster reviews start. Normally I say, hi, Shane.
Yes, he does.
And then it's just a couple minutes of whatever makes sense with the person whose roster we're going to review. We're going to get to that here shortly. This is a surprise stream. We're not going to go for the whole 90 minutes tonight. If you have questions, we'll get to some of those in the last 15 minutes or so, just depending on how many we get that we feel like taking. So it's not going to be a full stream. We're going to do a full roster review. Anybody that's tuned into the channel for a long time, you've heard us talk about roster reviews. We've kind of like advertised them, but not really. But we figured we're going to do one live so everyone can see what it is. We have some cool new tools that we can share as well. And it's just something that we really enjoy doing. It's why Shane and I have such good rapport. At least people have told us we have good rapport because we do spend probably 20 hours a week doing this without Clay. So that's why Shane was saying we don't need Clay. But I wanted to have a couple quick discussions with you, Shane. I had some rants. Did I tell you what the rants were earlier? As Shane's lights go on, there's a ghost. The ghost of Clay is turning Shane's lights on as he's telling his Alexa to turn them off. Did I tell you earlier what my two rants were going to be?
I did. I'd rather you not throw names out there because I'm personally like one of the gentlemen.
Okay. So for the first rant, I'm not going to throw names out there, but I was listening to a podcast, Fantasy Pros. I have to say what show it was, but I'm not going to say who said what because it's not even relevant. Okay. It doesn't even matter who said what. I was listening to a podcast. It's one of the most recent shows they put out. They're talking about running back tiers, right? We talk about running backs a lot. So let me ask Shane this question. Shane, when you go through running back tiers, do you actually like put running backs in tiers or do you actually do running back rankings anywhere? Please say no.
No.
No. Okay.
Well, that's a lie though, because I was forced to for a DLF article. So I had to do rankings of my top 200 players. So technically, if you go out there, there are rankings that exist with my name on it, but I haven't updated them in 4 months. So there's that.
Well, and the reason this brings up is it has nothing to do with criticizing somebody's tiers or rankings, but it was the scope of the discussion. Okay. So they were ranking running backs. They got to a name that you like. I don't, but that doesn't even matter for this point. The name was Rachaad White. Right. And the question was, okay, somebody was a little higher on Rachaad White, and then somebody was a little lower on Rachaad White. They get into the discussion, and it was, well, Rachaad White's okay. His situation this year could warrant that he gets a lot of touches because who's the next best running back there? Sean Tucker, Keyshawn Vaughn. Like, I think you can project Rachaad White to get enough work this year to be an RB2. But then the debate was, I don't really like Rachaad White that much for Dynasty because, man, next year the situation could get better and they could draft another running back. And it's like, are we really analyzing running backs? 95% of them, are we analyzing them a year out? Are we looking at Rachaad White going, man, I really hope he can get the bell cow work this year so that they don't bring in another running back next year or the next year? Like, that shouldn't even go into the analysis of 95% of running backs. It should be, I don't care how old you are. I don't care how good you are. All I care about are all these things coming together. What can you do for me in the next 1 year? And after that, unless your name is, I don't know, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall, who else? Anybody else? Any other running back, you are confident of their situation for more than 1 year. Can you think of any?
I stopped listening to you. Said Breece Hall, Jonathan Taylor.
No, not Jonathan Taylor. Not even Jonathan Taylor because he's a free agent. Breece Hall, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs. Can you name another running back that you sit there and you say, I am very confident their situation gets as good or better going forward? Or will there be some competition?
I can't think of many more.
Exactly. And that was my point, is if you're sitting here debating Dameon Pierce versus Rachaad White as to who you think is going to have more competition going forward, what are you doing? You are wasting your time. All running backs are going to get competition, period. It should almost be, unless you are just a unicorn first-round pick, you can envision Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson sitting in their spot as they are, how they project this year. You can kind of project that for multiple years. But outside of that, why do we care?
I feel confident. Yeah, but I do feel confident I can do that with at least 5 running backs.
Well, and here's
but
here's
it ain't
the
Rachaad White tier. I'll tell you that. It's definitely not the Rachaad White tier who I love.
Here's the other problem. I could do that for Kenneth Walker and Travis Etienne. Don't you agree? And Ramondre Stevenson. Don't you agree?
You thought we could have. We thought we could for Travis Etienne and who's the other guy? Kenneth Walker last year, and we were wrong.
Here's the final point to this rant. Part of what you're talking about when you analyze a running back, like I care about what's going to happen next year. I need the guy to go like this, up and up and up and up and up, meaning their dynasty value never goes down between now and next year. And what is going to happen to, I don't know, Ramondre Stevenson 10 months from now? Will he be valued as high or higher as he is during the season or before this season starts? Yes or no?
No.
No, because you know what? Doesn't matter how good he is. There will always be a threat they get somebody else.
Yes.
For every running back.
Yeah, because he's not one of the unicorns. So
correct.
Like there's legitimately, there's a few unicorns you don't have to worry about. And that's why I don't even care where JT ends up. He's a unicorn. Saquon Barkley, assuming health, CMC, obviously Bijan, and my son, Breece Hall. But yeah, outside of that, like I don't think you can project any running back long term. Like you're crazy if you're trying to project running backs long term, which is why. And you know what? If we're just gonna rant, I read 2 articles today. I won't say what site. I might have written for them at some point or another, or still do. So that could be one of several sites. But I read 2 articles today, and I'm not putting anyone on blast, where they were talking about how 6th round and 7th round running backs could be the future of that team. And I just, in my brain, went, wait, what? No, like that feels like analysis that we used to give when we first started doing dynasty football, right? Like you go, well, this 5th round running back could take over next year because, well, Dalvin Cook's going to move on. You know what I mean? And then he automatically moves up 1 without realizing, wait a minute, they just spent a 6th round pick on this guy. Like next year, they just spend a 5th round pick on somebody, and he's already jumped them in the hierarchy, in the favoritism metrics scale. That's not a word. I don't care. But yeah, no, I completely get your point. I think you can do that with, you can't do it with running back. You can obviously do it with quarterback. You can't even really
every other position except for running back, period.
I mean, wide receiver, wide receiver is more of a unicorn position in the sense that if the wide receiver is great, Devontae Adams, I don't really care where he is. You know, DeAndre Hopkins, as much as I make fun of him for running like a tight end, is going to smash no matter where he is.
Well, so here's
the third receiver for the Eagles.
Here's the caveat. I don't care unless the running back is a unicorn from a profile standpoint. So here's my criteria of giving a running back the benefit of the doubt for more than 1 year. Got to be a 1st or 2nd round pick with extreme hype or Devy pedigree. So that eliminates 90% of running backs already, because not many guys get that capital or have that hype, right? then you have to produce at a top 8 or better clip. Unless you fit that criteria, you are subject to, I don't care if you put up a top 5 season. If you were a 3rd round pick, there will be doubters. Part of what I need you to be able to go through the season, smash, be a warp difference maker, and be able to survive the offseason without one person across all my leagues doubting that the situation could get any
So
worse.
let me ask you this, though, right? So Kenny Walker basically fell into that category, except for the Devi hype. I don't think he had a lot of Devi hype because I don't really remember hearing much of him prior to his final season in college. So that would knock him out of that criterion. I don't know.
He would be one of the ones you would have probably put in that category in this offseason, and he still was subject to getting cut.
So that's, I mean, like, how do we know who's even safe? Like, at this point, is it literally just 1st round running back?
It's got to be 1st rounders, but then you have to be efficient running backs at the same time. Like, it can be a little bit of both. If I put up a Alvin Kamara rookie season and I'm a 3rd round pick and I do it the way Alvin Kamara did, I can probably say, like, let's say Jahmyr Gibbs was a 3rd rounder, right? Jahmyr Gibbs goes out, has 70 catches as a rookie. I can probably project a similar, like, 70 catch type role, regardless of who he drafts, period. Because that's the type of running back he is, which makes it interesting that we sit here and go, why don't people buy into Tony Pollard at an elite level? Because you know what's Tony Pollard's been? An efficiency monster. So it doesn't matter what else is there. You should be able to project him for 250 touches max, and you should still project him as a top 10 running back. It just seems weird that we have biases, we stick to them, but it just doesn't make any sense outside of the top 4 or 5 running backs every year that we're literally thinking about a year out. It's ridiculous.
There is this, though. You are going to hate this 100%. But there is a difference when you watch a Breece Hall versus even a Ken Walker, Travis Etienne. They're different animals. Breece Hall's very...
Someone asked about Breece Hall in the comments. Let me ask your opinion on Breece Hall, okay? Breece Hall goes out. Maybe he struggles a little early because he is coming back from a serious injury, okay? What does Breece Hall have to do to where there is zero threat that his value goes anywhere but up from January to March? Meaning, I have him in January, and in the next 2 or 3 months, regardless of what's going to happen in the draft, there is not one person that goes, man, they were flirting with Jahmyr Gibbs last year. They were flirting with Zeke last year, blah, 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 whatever it was. What will make it so that people are just like, yep, he's the dude. There's never going to be a threat. It's never going to be possible. His value goes up. That's what I want. If you can't tell me he fits that criteria, I don't value them more than a year.
I mean, here's the problem, though. Well, and that's at almost any running back. There's not many running backs. Not any running backs. Any running back you can look at and go, I think their contract length will make a difference in this conversation. Homeboy asked if contract length makes a difference in this conversation.
I think job efficiency is first. If you're efficient, I can buy into it. If you're efficient and you're still on a rookie contract where I can tell you have another year or two under that same deal, that's when you can sell me, right? Like Ramondre Stevenson, 90 targets last year. If he goes out and posts another top 10, top 12 season this year, I can buy into it for one more year. Even if that's halfway through this year, I can go, you know what? I can feel safe about Ramondre for another year because the way he's winning, he doesn't need 300 touches. You know what I mean? He doesn't. And he's still on a rookie contract. So I think it's just a very select few, which goes back to my original rant is why are we giving a shit about Rachaad White's projection in 2024?
So, no, you know what, though? I'll say this. Because the elite running backs, they really don't have anywhere to go up, right? They don't. But if Rachaad White does go out there, now he's going to need to drop 60 receptions and 900 rushing yards. Then he would see a spike in value. But I have no way of knowing which one's going to be the Rachaad White or which one's going to be the guy that does that. Cole World TDE, Devi running backs are the new Dynasty running back ones. You ain't wrong, man. I'm already looking at Nicholas Singleton, and I think I got him in the top 5 already, and he's not allowed out of school for like another 2 years.
I think it's more of just a couple people have said it in the comments. I haven't been able to like put all the comments up because there's been a lot of good ones. You just have to be kind of looking at your running back rooms and saying, I need enough. If I'm ready to compete, I need enough to be able to get by in the now. That's it. I'm not looking at investing in running backs going, I'll get multiple years. Now, I may be able to project, hey, Ramondre has another year on his rookie deal. Okay, cool. This guy has 2 more years on his rookie deal. I might get a little bit of a sliver of bonus where I get an extra year out of them where their situation is not disrupted or it's the same as it was. But I don't want to be looking at most of these guys going, oh, yeah, man, you said it earlier. He could take over the backfield next year. The 5th rounder could take over the backfield when the 3rd rounder ahead of him leaves. Whereas the odds are they just draft another 3rd rounder or 4th rounder or 5th rounder or sign a guy or do both. Khalil Herbert was going to take over the backfield, right? Till they brought 2 other running backs that literally could be as good or better than him. So just a rant about that. It makes running back rankings and tiers almost pointless. It's almost like if I don't have the top 4 or 5, they're all the same. It's who can give me the most this year. You know what I mean? It's why Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, and Austin Eckler still remain in the top 8.
All right. So look, if I saw someone shout out Manic and Chill at the beginning of this, well, like Manic and Chill, like I think the very first comment, I don't even fucking think I said hello to you. I was like, there's like 15 players that matter in Dynasty. And it might have expanded with the quarterback class expanding a little bit. Like we might be up to 20. But honestly, outside of like just elite needle mover guys, everybody else is kind of replaceable. Like, which is why we've always, I mean, as long as I've known you, which is like 30 years now, we've always preached about can you tear down and get 80% of that production and a pick on top of it, you know, and then try to buy those few elite, truly elite assets instead of spending up on, I guess, name value versus what's actually elite. Hey, I see Matt in here. Matt Lyon.
Did you?
Yeah, I saw him in here. Matt, how's it going? See you, buddy. We're going to be doing your roster review in a second. Scott was angry and wanted to rant a little bit, though.
Well, I have a second rant. This one should be a little bit quicker, but it's a rant about running backs holding out. You heard that a little bit over the last couple weeks?
Yeah.
J.K. Dobbins apparently is going to hold out now.
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley is going to hold out. Listen, running backs get paid shit on the market. If they hold out, they don't accrue a year. They have to play 6 games to accrue a year. So any analysis that includes that running back could hold out is just ignore it. Now does that mean a running back is going to give it their all 17 games and not pack it in if they've played 8 games and they have a little bit of a hamstring strain and they haven't gotten paid? Okay, I see some risk there. But any analysis, oh man, J.K. Dobbins could hold out. He's not going to hold out. What's he holding out for? So he could not be a free agent after his 4th year and not accrue a year?
Well, you can expand that, though, because remember, beginning of the offseason, people were worried about Lamar. Oh, my God.
That's different, though. It's a quarterback.
But it's the same concept. You can't just sit out a year because you're not going to accrue your free agency. So that's why, honestly, there's never been a time in my life that I've ever gone, oh, shit, this might actually happen. Like, they're really going to hold out because they have to accrue a season. Like, that's the marketplace. Because of how the marketplace is set up in NFL, they're not stupid. They set it up the way they did on purpose.
Well, and I think the holdout term gets thrown around, but really what it is it's just a little bit of like discontent, right? Like J.K. Dobbins obviously has a little bit of discontent for the team because he wants paid. Now, what's the reality? He's probably not going to get paid because he's a running back who had a serious injury, and he's probably going to be seen as a guy with a limited skill set. So if he likes David Montgomery or Jamal Williams or Damian Harris, like that's what he's worth. Devin Singletary, Miles Sanders, that's the best he's getting. So
Lev Bell was the one guy that it actually happened where he actually held out, and it was amazing. Didn't think it was coming, and he thought he was going to reset the market, and he didn't. And Lev Bell was probably, I don't know, the best overall back in football at that time. But it brings to mind, like, if Austin Eckler can't get more money out of the Chargers, all they did is like move his contract around, right? Like guarantee some bonuses. Yep. But if Austin Eckler that has his threat of a holdout means nothing, J.K. Dobbins means less than nothing. Because if I'm the Ravens, I'm like, cool, sit out. I'm going to go sign Kareem Hunt. I'll go sign Leonard Fournette. What's Dalvin Cook want? Like there's enough supply on the market still. There's enough running backs sitting out there that I could just go grab one of them. Yeah. And then, look, and I don't want to turn this into a worker's right. If I was a running back and if I was an agent for a running back, I'd probably tell them like, no, we're going to hold the line. But if I'm also 29 years old and this is the last time that someone's going to pay me $6 million to do something, I'm probably just going to take the money. And too bad for J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the reality. You have to play 6 games to accrue a league year, which means no player is going to not play 6 games. Now, if you sit here and tell me, yep, a guy on a franchise tag or a guy that's a free agent may not get to the end of the season and be ready to go for your fantasy playoffs because he's already accrued his season. Listen, if you came to me and you told me, hey, I only have to work half the time and I'd get my full benefits, it's human nature to kind of be like, all right, I can back off just a little bit. Like, it could happen. But to sit here and analyze that for Dynasty at all and think a guy's actually going to sit out a season, I mean, I legit heard it. Man, should I value Gus Edwards more because J.K. Dobbins could sit out? It's like, no,
Yeah.
It's waste of time.
I love that there's been a couple Lev Bells in there. Dude, you're literally naming one running back out of, I don't know how many running backs have played in the NFL in the last, let's say 50.
It's a different era, bro. That was 5 years ago. This is a different era. You're going to have Jonathan Taylor hit the market, and they're going to look at the Lev Bell contract and go, this guy's not worth anywhere close to that. And Jonathan Taylor is going to be 24 in his prime, and he's not even going to get $10 million.
Yeah.
You know? And you had a guy like Dalvin Cook out there. I mean, I'm sitting here going, why don't the Giants go to Saquon? Let me ask you this question, and then we'll get to the roster review.
Yeah.
Why don't the Giants go to Saquon Barkley tomorrow and say, sign the tag, we're actively negotiating with Dalvin Cook, and if we can get him in for $6 million, we're rescinding your tag. See ya. Why don't they do it? What would be the reason? If you knew you could get Dalvin Cook in the building for $6 million for 1 year instead of paying Saquon $11 million, why wouldn't you do it?
I mean, honestly, for the simplistic reason of Saquon Barkley's just a better football player.
Okay, so it's basically we would rather pay Saquon $11 million versus Dalvin Cook $6 million because Saquon's.
If we're not at the cap now, obviously, if there's cap implications,
no cap implications,
so they don't need to worry about it, right? They still got to spend on the floor, all that good stuff. So I think, and look, this gets into team stuff. The Giants sillily, oddly enough, think they're actually a Super Bowl contending team. So they wouldn't do that. I can't imagine.
Well, let's go to my team then, Cincy. Okay. Joe Mixon scheduled to make $10.8 million.
Do it.
Why wouldn't they go to Joe Mixon and say, Joe, we're discussing Dalvin Cook for $6 million?
So here's
you take the pay cut for $6 million, or we cut you, sign Dalvin Cook, and now you're out on free agency, and I bet you he doesn't get more than $3 or $4 million.
Here's the thing, though, right? And this is where it's good to listen to real football context. You do shit like that, and your locker room turns into a mute.
Hey, I was just going to ask you, why wouldn't a team do that? And that's because the cohesiveness of the team and the chemistry of paying Joe Mixon an extra $4 million is worth it, right? Yeah, basically.
Yeah, you can't go and say, hey, we're getting rid of Joe and paying Dalvin less because your roster or your what do you call those people? The locker room, like that would go, oh, Jamar Chase goes, oh, that's how they treat franchise icons here. You know what I mean? And that's what basically Mixon is.
So you have to pick your spots to be absolutely heartless and ruthless, right? Not that obvious.
Right. Exactly.
All right. Well, let's get to the roster review. Ready? We're going to do some cool stuff with this roster review. Let's get to the overlay for the review. And shout out to Dynasty Daddy. We try to incorporate Dynasty Daddy into our roster reviews, dynasty-daddy.com. We're not affiliated or sponsored or anything with Dynasty Daddy, but
just like their site.
It's an awesome site.
Yeah.
So, Shane, while I'm pulling up the review stuff, as everyone can see, we have a new email address, right? Roster review at dynastytradesand5.com for more details on our roster reviews. This is what it normally looks like. Shane and I will literally just hit record. I say hi, Shane. Shane rambles for a couple minutes. It's usually the funniest part. As I've joked before on streams, we could literally pull like the minute or two that starts every roster review, and it would just be TikToks for days with Shane because he has like some of the most funny quips that start these reviews. But this is what it looks like with the overlay. Shane, you ready to get into the process on the review and talk a little bit about the settings and scoring and everything?
Let's do this, man. Now, first off, I've been told is it a 10-team league?
Yes, this is a 10-team, 2 QB league. So you have to start 2 QBs, half PPR. There's no tight end premiums. There's no point per carry. It is a start 9, so you can see it in there. 2 QBs, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, a tight end, 2 flexes, bench spots. That is a naughty point. All the bench spots are not filled. 12 bench spots, though, so we're looking at a 10 by 21 league, equivalent in
210.
210, equivalent in a 12 team. You are looking at a 12 team start 7.5 with 18-man rosters. So one word, shallow. Shallow. Keep shallow in mind. But you can see the overlay. This league has been around for 3 years. We forgot to mention the owner of this roster. Did you want to introduce our roster reviewee?
I believe his name is Matt. Also goes by Frenchie. I'm not really sure what that means. That's a thing between him and Clay. Maybe Clay can explain it to us. That's literally all I know about him, and that he plays on Sleeper, which is the best format platform to play on. MFL is for dinosaurs, even though I do have several leagues. Actually, a majority of my leagues on MFL.
Sleeper is the best for roster reviews. When we get an MFL one, it's like, what is that? What is that gross puke in the center of the screen?
That is true. MFL is just freaking ugly, but the way that Sleeper, it's almost like Sleeper's was built for our roster reviews, and Sleeper should hire us to do roster reviews as part of their business plan. But whatever, they don't give us any respect, so fuck those guys.
I did not expect that. Anyway, so Matt's league has been going on for 3 years. He finished 8th last season. Now, he says he's a contender going into this year, which is weird because Clay fed us this review and said this is a team that needs a lot of work. I believe the title was "This is a dumpster fire," yet we asked the person with the team, and he says contender. So normally I don't equate dumpster fire and contender, but again, Clay set the title, so we'll just work with it. Waivers resume in August. Obviously, he has not had his rookie draft, Shane. If you can zoom in and look at those picks, he's got the 101. That's a good pick.
That is the best pick.
That is the 102, next best pick. He's got the 104
also
and the 205. So you're talking 4 top 15 picks. Looks like he has accumulated an extra 24 first, 2 extra 24 seconds, and all of his 2025 picks. So this is one of those few reviews where the rookie draft has not happened yet. And a little bit about the league. So one cool thing we do with the roster reviews, we ask you a bunch of questions about your league. We want to know, what's the activity level? He says it's moderate. How often are rookie picks traded? He says very freely. And then we ask some league biases, which I will wait until I hear Shane's initial thoughts. We always want to get Shane's initial thoughts. Shane, you see this on the screen. Give us like a minute or two of what you're feeling.
Well, again, first of all, I'm a little annoyed at Clay because he told us it was a dumpster fire. So I was kind of going into the mindset of like, I got to fix someone. I got to, like Captain Save-A-Ho. But unfortunately not. I mean, although fortunately for Matt, I guess his team isn't awful. Good for you, Matt. See, we got Justin Herbert and we got Dakota. Who's the second quarterback? Dakota Sky Prescott. Running backs are a little not good, right? Cam Akers, Antonio Gibson. But again, he's got the 101 and the 102, so I got a feeling that'll be okay. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins just begging to be stacked with Joe Burrow. So how do we make that happen? Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jalen Waddle. I mean, it's not Chris Olave, but it's nice. Dallas Goedert in a non-premium, that's fine. The bench is ass, but that's okay. He's got Tyler Algier on the bench, so he's going to have a good rotation of running backs after he actually drafts a couple. But I like this, right? The team was built in a way that he can just add a couple running backs and maybe upgrade at that second QB position. I mean, he's got a lot to play with. That's what we always preach. If you're flexible, that's what we want. That's what we want out of a woman. That's what we want out of a man. That's what we want out of a roster, right? We want flexibility. 101, 102, 104, and then a couple 24 firsts. So this is one of those like, he might have finished 8th last year, but he can definitely make some moves and just pull it out and slam it on the table and, be a heavy contender this year.
Yeah, it's one of those teams where I can see how it finished 8th just because there was a couple players that were injured that missed some time. I can see the running backs being extremely bad last year just based on who he has, but definitely not a dumpster fire, and definitely not a dumpster fire when you factor in that he has 2 of the top 2 picks 3 of the top 4 and 4 of the top 15, along with a bunch of extra ammo on the bench with the extra 24 picks as well. We do ask about league biases. These are key. We talk a lot of times about your league. Know your league. We don't know your league when we're reviewing your roster. So unless we know something about your league, it's hard for us to give context without you telling us. He says they extremely overvalue quarterbacks. Some people are hoarding quarterbacks. Top 3 quarterbacks take like 4 or 5 pieces to get. The rest of the top 10 would probably take 3 to 4 pieces. So keep that in mind, given that he's got Justin Herbert and Dak Prescott, which isn't terrible, but probably middle of the pack in a 10-team.
Well, I'll say this. I'm just looking at who has Joseph Burrow real quick. They've got no 23 picks. Wide receivers are solid, but they're not as good as this wide receiver room. And if you wanted to, you could play around with one of those 102 picks, maybe. Just saying. But we'll get there.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to Dynasty Daddy in a second because I think that'll highlight some of the maybe trade partners that we can maybe find. They overvalue tight end for some reason in a non-tight end premium, so I would just say good luck with that. Roster construct, right? And you're probably good with Dallas Goedert. Doesn't sound like you're going to be able to get a much better tight end if they overvalue the ones probably better than Goddard, which is only a couple. They have a bad case of, oh, that's my guy, overvaluing the players they already have. Some endowment effect going on where, Shane, if I have Jalen Waddle, man, he's worth 3 firsts. If you have him out, he's going to be a 21% target share guy like he was last year. So can I buy him for a first? Same player. If I try to buy him from you and he's amazing, you try to buy him from me and you're trying to buy him cheap. So it's just one of those situations where a lot of leagues, the managers that are like that. But he says there's a few of them in this league. The bad trait for the league is there's a lot of redraft mentality. So probably going to be a little harder to buy the cheap win now players that you or I may sell to each other if we don't have the right roster construction. So those are the biases.
Again, that would matter if your team didn't have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jalen Waddle and Justin Herbert. Like, I'd be more concerned about I can't buy a win now piece. Like, you're adding your win now piece in Bijan Robinson. And then the 102, 104, Dak Prescott, and the 24 first, all these. We're getting Joe Burrow or something. We're getting a tier up at QB. Now, look, yeah, this is real quick. Charlie's saying, I'm sorry to bring in comments. Don't fuck this up. DFTU.
This is not quite one of those. It's close, but it's not quite. It's not
close
quite.
to it.
Yes. So let's get into the first couple things that I think we can help kind of highlight how to start, quote unquote, fixing this team. I don't think it needs fixed. Here's what he says he wants us to focus on. First off, he wants to know, is he a contender? Second, he wants to know what to do with rookie picks. Third, he wants us to offer some trade suggestions. He says his 3 biggest concerns are it is a 2 QB league. He does only have 2 QBs. That is a concern. You're going to need a third. We can talk about how to go about it and getting the third, what you want to maybe potentially look to trade for, etc. Running back, he wants to know, is he a Bijan Robinson candidate? I don't know why he even asked this question. I think it's an overwhelming yes. I think you would agree. Yeah. So we're just going to forget that point. It's an obvious Bijan team, so don't worry about that. Depth. Shane, how much do you value depth in a 10-team start 9 with 18-man rosters?
No, that's huge because it's not like I can pull multiple starters off the waivers if I need them. And that's what we call sarcasm, kids. Yeah, no, we do not give a flying fuck about depth right now. We don't even worry about depth, even a little bit. You know where he's going to get depth? By drafting Bijan Robinson and sending Antonio Gibson to the bench where he belongs, and also the 102 maybe.
And you know where else you get depth? From roster construction, when you already have good starters and you're adding 3 of the top 4 players, right, along with a couple usable players on your bench. Guys like Jalen Warren, Tyler Algier. Running backs in shallow leagues are going to be king in terms of roster construction because they're the one player you can probably say, if there's an injury, I know I can put him in a shallow lineup. Hunter Renfrow, Van Jefferson, Josh Palmer, those guys are probably not making that threshold receiver cutoff here. So maybe you keep 1, but there's no reason to have 3. And then we have Dawson Knox. Shane, would you roster a backup tight end in a shallow league like this in a non-tight end premium?
I would generally say no, but he's got 1, 2, 3, at least 3 empty roster spots. And we haven't even cut anyone yet.
Right, but I think you can find a guy like Dawson Knox literally on waivers because people will end up having to make cuts. You will have tight ends that are usable to the point where if you had to put Dawson Knox in, A, you're already screwed. B, the difference between Dawson Knox and the guy on the bench is probably so minimal. It's just picking the right one every single week. So if I was going to have a backup tight end, it would be a one that I can stack with Dak Prescott or Justin Herbert. Period.
Streaming option's fine for tight end.
Streaming option, right? It's at this point, it's not a great use of a roster spot. So we're going to get to that here as I got to man this board real quick. So we're going to share the Warp tool. We're going to show the roster construction for this format. Again, a 10-team start 9. And I'm going to switch overlays. Get rid of this one. There we go. All right, Shane.
That's me.
I was highlighting you.
Yes.
Okay. There we go. The Rosterbation League. That's what it's called. I want to show this one first. Boom. And construction. There we go.
Oh.
This is the optimal roster construction. And what the way to interpret this, you can find all of this at southharmonff.com. Check out the Warp tool. But how do you read this, Shane? The N is essentially the players that matter at each position. What stands out to you there? I know it's a little hard to see, but what stands out to you there? Anything stand out to you numbers-wise?
I mean, other than a half of a tight end mattering?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You will notice this, and I don't know how long I've been saying this, at least 3 years, that in non-tight end premium, especially shallow leagues, literally the tight ends, unless you have one of the very, very, very top tight ends, you literally don't need any.
Yeah, but so let's give Matt a shout out on this though, right? How many roster reviews have we done where in the exact same settings formats, there's people that have 7 tight ends?
Yes, they go, I don't know who else to put on my bench, so I'm going to put 5 tight ends.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep drafting tight ends and just we're just going to keep doing it every year. We're just going to have 6 to 7 rotating tight ends on this roster. So at least he doesn't have that.
And think about this. I wonder how he's able to get those extra tight ends. I wonder why. Because they don't matter, and the league leaves them on waivers, so he can pick them all up. So again, the way to read this is basically you don't need a tight end unless you have one of the truly elite tight ends. So if you looked at the full Warp table, which I'll show here in just a second, 2 QBs, because it is a 2 QB league, you have to start 2. So optimally, you want to have at least 2 QBs. Optimally, you want to have at least 3 running backs. You want to have at least 3 receivers, and obviously you have to have a tight end. But after that, it's all about what is the best bang for my buck that would go into my lineup if there was an injury. So that's why that droppable number is so high, because it's a lineup league, which basically means 12 roster spots out of my, what did we say? This was 21 total roster spots, Shane?
Mm-hmm.
So 12 out of my 21 roster spots essentially are almost interchangeable with what's on waivers. And that's a sobering reality for people when they get scared about dropping that 14th player off their team when it's 21-man rosters, or in Matt's case, he said he was worried about his bench depth. It's all a fallacy. You're worried about your bench depth just in name only, right? You have your biases. You'd rather have this player on your bench over that player, sure. But really, when you're looking at this, a lot of those pieces are interchangeable. So we'll get rid of this and go back to the actual Warp graph. So let's see. You can see this one.
We're going to need that. Is that big as it gets?
It can go a little bit bigger. There.
That's
Is that better?
She said. Yeah.
Okay. So you see this. This is essentially the Warp graph for this league. How depressing is it, Shane, when you see everybody outside of basically the top, what is that, tight ends, top 4?
Mm-hmm.
Then they start to basically become 0? You notice that?
Yeah, but I feel, is that a surprise, though?
No, it's not, but
Right.
It is a reality when you're looking at your tight end room and you're going, okay, how many elite tight ends are there in Dynasty? And is Dallas Goedert one of them, Shane?
No.
I thought you would say yes because he is a top 6 tight end.
Then yes.
Okay. Now, the quarterbacks that he has, Dak Prescott and Justin Herbert, do any of the other tight ends in the top 4, 5, 6 stack with either of his quarterbacks?
Where's Kelsey?
No, I'm not. Forget about that. I'm just talking about.
I don't know how to read this tool.
Okay.
Wait. So the 1 and then the QBs are red.
Kelsey is that one that's like way up there.
But it's still well below the wide receivers, running backs, and far, far, far below quarterback.
Yes, but you have to start a tight end. So my point is, unless he has Travis Kelce, maybe Mark Andrews, but you can even argue, this is why you wouldn't pay for what you're paying with Mark Andrews is you're paying for this second little dot right there, which really isn't that good relative to all the other positions. But at least it's better than many of the other tight ends, right?
Right.
But he has Dallas Goedert. So at least with Dallas Goedert, you can say, okay, I'm at the bottom of the tight end threshold, but that's pretty much it. I don't need a backup. And why don't I need a backup? Because every tight end outside of the top 5 is essentially interchangeable.
That's what I was going to say. Dallas Goedert's in this little cluster here of tight ends that are good, but not Kelsey.
Yes. And I see a lot in the chat, people wondering, how do I interpret this warp graph? This is just looking at where the distribution of wins above replacement is at each position.
So so I'm a simple man, right? So let me say this to people, and I've listened to Scott talk about warp a lot, right? And I've listened to him explain it a lot. And this is what my little pea brain came up with. As we've kind of talked about in the past, and we keep beating into people's head, elite players matter and not much else. Like after the elite tiers of players, and in the tight end position specifically, it's even worse because that elite tier is so small. It is Kelsey, and then even Andrews is far below that, as much as I like him, although I think I'll bounce back. I forget what my point was, but there's very few elite players that aren't replaceable.
Well, and I want to reiterate this. This is not predictive of what could happen. This is just the distribution from last year. I agree Andrews is better than he was last year. If you looked at his career, it's probably closer to that one number. But the point is, the exercise basically is telling you that you don't need to worry about tight end unless you can get one of those top couple. That's it. And then looking at the other positions, you can see where the quarterbacks are because you have to start 2 quarterbacks. You probably want to try to get all 3 of your quarterbacks inside that top 12-ish, maybe better. So how do I accomplish that? And then everything else, you can see where it flattens off. You can see in a shallow league. I want to point this out, then we'll get out of this so that people are not just completely bombarded with warp. Look in this league. It's a 10-team start 9. Look at where the receivers flatten off, Shane. You notice that? The receivers in blue. You see how flat it gets right around like wide receiver 24 to 30? To the point where, the Jerry Judys, Brandon Ayuk's, those types, Chris Godwin's, Jahan Dotson's, George Pickens, they are literally placeholders to the point where I just need enough of them to cover as many roster spots as I need, and that's it. It doesn't matter which ones I have.
So you're saying any wide receiver 2 or 3, back end, wide receiver 2 or any wide receiver 3, basically the name doesn't matter.
For the most part, yes. This is where you would go, okay, if I'm going to pick between the 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 in that tier, maybe I should stack, right?
Yeah.
If I have to pick one, maybe I pick Mike Williams instead of another one, or Keenan Allen or Quentin Johnston, etc.
Koopa, use different fucking colors, man. Wide receiver and running back are too close, which is blending into tight end for me. And I'm old, I get that. But let's just use some different colors there too. Like, don't be afraid to use magenta.
Hey, shout out to Koopa. It's again southharmonff.com. Don't blame him. This is me pulling the images and sharing.
You did that?
Review. Yes.
That was your fault for doing the coloring scheme?
It is me that's not used to sharing it with everybody, just you. So it doesn't look awesome on the stream. But
no, I like the warp tool. Like I said, it feels like it speaks to me just because it's kind of validating what I've always thought. You know what I mean? Which is always a good thing when you thought something. But anyway.
So next we are going to go ahead and look at the actual roster again. And this is where you can use your Dynasty Daddy. I put it in the chat, dynastydaddy.com. with the sleeper ID. You plug in your sleeper ID, and literally you can follow along as we're doing this review. So where do we start, Shane? We already kind of went through roster construction. Who would we cut? We would cut Cooper Rush and Zach Wilson. My God, both of them are gone. Probably at this point, you'd rather have running backs over the receivers, so I would probably cut at least Van Jefferson, Hunter Renfrow, and Dawson Knox. So there you go.
I sweat now. Josh Palmer there. It's my dude.
I mean, the only reason you'd cut Josh Palmer is like he's an emergency receiver and I have Justin Herbert. He would break the tie in your last spot. That's it.
So when Mike Williams isn't playing a week and, you've got a couple of injuries, you can go, all right, this is going to be the Josh Palmer spike week, so I'm going to throw him in there and look like a genius. Yeah, I like that. Okay,
so we got 1, 2, and I'm keeping the running backs, keeping Gainwell, Algier, Jalen Warren, cutting Cooper Rush, Zach Wilson, Hunter Renfrow, Van Jefferson, Dawson Knox. I have 8 empty roster spots. I have 4 rookie picks, which means we're going to be able to dive into those waivers and pick up 4 players. That will be really fun after the league is over. But here's where we need you to intervene, Shane. He needs a third QB.
He does.
You saw the chart. Mm-hmm. You probably want to get another top 12, 13, 14, top 15 QB or better. It's a 2 QB, so he needs one for his build. You probably need to have 3 because the roster construction number was over 2. So you want to have 3. What's your attack plan? You mentioned Joe Burrow because you got Chase and Higgins. You're already invested. Are you willing to go pay up?
Yes.
What team has him? Did you find what team has him on Dynasty Daddy?
Yeah, and then I hit refresh. Ultra Mega Chicken.
Ultra Mega Chicken. So he is frisky.
Frisky.
He also has Joe Burrow, Deshaun Watson, and Baker Mayfield. So he's kind of in a similar spot as we are, quarterback-wise. He only has 2. You see any trades based on the roster? This is another team that is ranked 4th overall with starter rank 2nd. So this is honestly, it's probably one of the other top 2 or 3 contenders in the league. You think he'll actually move Burrow?
I mean, look, it might take, because obviously I'm going to try to be cheap, right? I'd be like, hey, take a 24 first and Dak Prescott for Joe Burrow. He's not going to bite on that, I don't think. He does have 3 seconds, too. That's one of those moves where I like just throwing a bunch of shit at someone and making them go like, fuck, I have to kind of take this because its calculator says it's right? Even though people don't believe in calculators. I'm going to start low. Let's just try to see, can I move? Hey, Matt, can you move Dak Prescott 104? Dak Prescott 104. That's where I'm starting.
Interesting. He says Dak and 2 or 3 picks for Burrow. Will he bite on Anthony Richardson?
Well, here's the thing. I think I'm drafting Anthony Richardson at 102. So fuck off.
But will Anthony Richardson get you more credit in a trade than Dak Prescott?
So I'm moving Anthony Richardson, which is the 102, and another 24 first, and holding on to Dak Prescott. And
let's clarify for this. Let's clarify this point. I'm not trading. I don't want to trade Justin Herbert or Dak Prescott. I need a third quarterback. Mm-hmm. This is, I'm not trying to upgrade or give up. I need a third quarterback.
Well, then the only way to do it is Anthony Richardson, and you're going to have to give up at least 2 firsts plus Anthony Richardson.
I would consider a Dak deal, but what can I add to Dak? Would you do Dak 102 and a future first for Burrow?
Yes.
What do you do about your third QB now? Because you need a third for roster construction.
No, we got a 101. What else do we have? We also have future first.
You got 104, so we're going to be able to draft Stroud or Young.
Oh, well, there you go. Done. Stroud.
So you're foregoing Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah, fucking yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and a 2 quarterback, that's not even close. Like Jahmyr Gibbs isn't even in my wavelength. You know what I mean? For half a second, I forgot it was a 2 QB. And I was like, oh, well, we'll go Bijan and Gibbs and fix that running back room. But 2 QB, yeah, you're taking AR-15. Mark wants to just hold on to Dak.
We're getting some comments that says just draft your way through. Keep Anthony Richardson and don't bother trying to trade for Burrow.
That's fine. The only downside to that is Dak is not a high upside quarterback. And Anthony Richardson, as much as I love his upside, there's a pretty good chance that he's going to be a bust. So what I like doing is being happy with our 3 QBs. Well, okay, because partly what we're doing in a 10 team is we want to separate ourselves from the other teams, right? And he's already got Jamar, not Jahmyr. He's already got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Like, we want to go all in on that stack. And if we can get Burrow, yes. And if it costs Dak and AR-15, I don't know. That's probably a little much.
Ideally, here would be my strategy. If I could get Burrow and end up with Richardson, I'll take my chances at the running back spot. I would take my chances drafting Gibbs at 104 versus I would pass on Bijan if I could get the Burrow deal done. If I could end up with a Burrow, Herbert, Anthony Richardson QB room, and I have that extra stack power with Burrow, Chase, and Higgins, that's how you defeat the variance with the upside of Richardson plus the stack, the triple stack. That's how this team's going to make the playoffs, most likely. That's how I defeat that extra variance of I need to win 1 week. Now it could burn you, but I think Burrow is the best long-term play of all of them, as Josh says, and it gives you the ability to defeat the variance. So if there's a one time to overpay, it would be Bijan and Dak Prescott I would give up for Burrow. And that's a big risk, but I think in this shallow of a league, that would be where I would start.
I'm not doing it. I'm not giving up Bijan. I'm telling you, no, because look, if that's the case, yeah. So look, we don't always agree.
We don't. No, we don't. I think he can probably take away if there's a couple options here, but there isn't an obvious one. You have a lot of good assets, but
right,
you got to figure out what the other guy wants. He may not even be interested in Dak, and that way you immediately have to offer up Bijan or Richardson.
And then it doesn't matter
right.
if he's not, because Herbert isn't part of that deal. Obviously, there's not even a thought of adding anything to Herbert to get the Joe Burrow. I might.
Shane would. If Shane had Burrow and this guy wants him with Higgins and Chase, Shane's
okay,
going.
But here's a third.
Yeah.
Here's a second. Give me a third back the following year. You know why? Because look, I'm still getting a pick, and the hit rates on a second is like fucking 15%. So it's really, I'm not giving anything other than the allure of an asset. You know what I mean? It's a tradable asset, but if we make the pick, fine. So yeah, if we go Herbert to Burrow by doing a second and getting a third back, something like that, we could also do that. There's a lot of ways to get there. That's a thing. But you got to, what do we always say? You know, if you've listened to the show long enough, if you've ever had a roster review, you know this has probably come up at least once or twice. Be aggressive. Don't be stupidly aggressive. Like, I kind of think like Bijan and Dak is just too much for Burrow.
I like this one. Dak, Waddle in the 104 for Burrow and a 24 first, I assume he means. And you'd still get Bijan and Richardson. You'd end up with Burrow, Herbert, Richardson, and Bijan, Shane. That's like a dream.
Aren't we in 23?
He meant 20. He put 24. He means 24. So you're essentially getting the extra credit for you're paying a little extra with the 104, getting back a 24 first. So it's like Dak, Waddle plus for Burrow.
Yeah,
I would do that.
I don't know. I kind of like I'm all about this Herbert for fucking Burrow swap now. Okay. Let's do about the least amount of pain here. Okay. Fantasy plumber, right? He says Herbert to Burrow is the play. I don't know if we thought of that or if this audience thought of that, but I kind of do like that.
T. Sanford thought about that. Shout out to T. Sanford, who does assist with all of our commenting on social media, which is
what's up, bro?
Thankless job. But yeah, thank you, man. That is one of the better ideas that I wouldn't have thought of. I'm maybe a lot more simple when it comes to these trades. I don't usually come up with the really creative ones, but I like that one.
Well, you know what, though? Because it's funny that's not the first thing that hit me, because that's what I'm fucking trying to do in every league with Jalen Hurts. Like, I'm trying to do it at the wide receiver, though. You know what I mean? I'm like, if I have CD Lamb, give me A.J. Brown. They're the same fucking guy, but I want the upside of that stack. Yep. So, yeah. I like that. Look, Joe Burrow, here's the thing about Burrow, right? And I keep forgetting this, too. There was a top tier of 4 quarterbacks last year. Joe Burrow was in that top tier. It was Jalen Hurts, Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow. And then the dip.
Listen, I'm a Bengals fan, but I actually think Burrow, Herbert, and Lawrence, and probably now Lamar Jackson belong in the same tier. So I actually have, of the elite quarterbacks, Burrow is probably like my second lowest in terms of rostership. And it's not because I don't like him. He was the 4th best quarterback last year. You can argue he's the most efficient and best quarterback of that whole group. But I also can acknowledge that in a given year, Joe Burrow could finish quarterback 7 and Justin Herbert could finish quarterback 4. And then they would flip-flop in Dynasty. People would go, Burrow had a down year. I like Herbert better. They're in the same tier. They're not in the Hurts, Mahomes, or even Allen tier like we debated the other night.
Right.
But I want to play the market. If you're going to give me something on top, if you're going to give me a Lamar and a first for Burrow or Lawrence and a first for Burrow. Like if you can take advantage of the fact that Burrow was in a higher tier, I'm willing to bet against that. And I'm the biggest Burrow fan there is.
No, look, and again, not to belabor or beat a dead horse or whatever the goddamn cliche is. I don't know. What makes Burrow so sexy here is the T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, not Jameer, Jamar Chase.
Yeah, that is the biggest underrated thing we've kind of touched on, but not really gone through. This is trying to win a extremely variant league. 10 teams start 9. You need to have the ability to separate yourself in some capacity when it matters. And getting the Burrow, Chase, Higgins stack could probably be worth a win by itself.
Yeah.
Now, it could go down in flames. They could be playing in a snow ice bowl, or the game could get canceled due to someone almost dying on the field, and you're screwed.
Cincinnati at Cleveland in week 17 or
that's what I mean.
16 or whatever, yeah.
You could get knocked out because of something bad that happens in a game, and it sucks because you had 3 of your 9 starters in one league or in one game, and you're out. So
I like my chances there. So let's just go through the other picks real quick. Look, I'm not trading the 101. I'm making that Bijan pick. If we're forced to make the picks at 102, I think we're both going Anthony Richardson, right?
Go Richardson at 102. I'm guessing a QB goes 103.
It should.
Well, okay, but that's my question. I'm assuming it does because it's a 2 QB league.
It's got to.
We don't know who has the 103. We can't see that. But at 104, you taking another QB? You care? Taking Stroud or Young over Gibbs? No questions?
Well, first, I'm trying to trade out of that pick.
For what?
Trade back 1.
Because we already have, let's see, we have Chase,
the 105.
Higgins.
Can we see that on Dynasty Daddy? Can we see the actual pick numbers or no?
No, we can't see what they have, but we can look at the QB needy teams on Dynasty Daddy, and there is a team by the name of Bitch Slapper, and his quarterbacks are Aaron Rodgers, Desmond Ridder, and Mac Jones, so those suck.
I just want to say these are some of the worst team names I've ever come across, but that's okay.
And then how about this QB room? Matthew Stafford and Patrick Mahomes. So that's a team that could probably use a QB3 because their QB2 is maybe on his last leg.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Aaron Rodgers, Desmond Ridder, Mac Jones, and Tyler Heineke. He's got 223 first, too.
Well, but unless he has a 103, you're in the driver's seat to take that third QB, right? You're in the driver's seat to take Young or Stroud because you're already going to get at 102, you're going to get Richardson. 104, you're still going to get Young or Stroud. So what would you try to trade him for? I'm looking at receivers. He only has 4 quote-unquote threshold receivers, and they're all top 12, right? So they're good, but would you try to get a 5th? Would you flop that 104 for like a 5th receiver if you could add a...
You already know where I'm going to try to get receivers.
If you could get Chris Olave for the 104, you're doing it all day?
Yes. Chris Olave, A.J. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, and then I'll feel bad if we move Dak, but whatever.
I think we prioritize CeeDee Lamb because if we can't get Burrow, we have Dak.
Yeah, then we have that stack.
Let's see who has CeeDee Lamb. If we look at CeeDee Lamb is on team Chocolate Frog. Now, Chocolate Frog does not have any firsts or any seconds, but he does have 3 QBs. So I'm not sure.
Legit QBs too. Yeah.
I mean, they're Trevor Lawrence, Daniel Jones, Geno Smith. So he's probably not looking at let me trade my only elite receiver for another QB. But
no, but he's still someone that you could probably work with to try to get CeeDee Lamb. He also overdrafted the tight ends. He's got Mark Andrews and TJ Hawkinson, which already lets me know that his valuation's a little skewed because he's overvaluing tight ends when you don't need to in this setup. Oh man, look at his wide receivers outside CeeDee Lamb. It is just Captain Anonymous. Yeah, I'm still attacking him, seeing if I can get CeeDee Lamb off of him.
And the other thing is he may for some reason
trade it 2 firsts for CD. Okay. All right.
Well, good context to know. We don't always have the person with the review. We do some of these live with the person, but a lot of times we don't have them giving live feedback like that. So that is good to know with how to navigate what potential trades we could get. I do think we could use.
Sorry, the guy with the 103 has Josh Allen.
Guy with the 103 is Josh Allen. Okay.
I'm guessing he's going Gibbs, unless he's just going to fill up his. It's fine.
No, because his QB2 behind Josh Allen is Kenny Pickett, and then he has Brock Purdy. So he may go a third QB.
He should. I mean,
Yeah.
I know we're not doing his roster review, but Jesus, you can't have Kenny Pickett and Brock Purdy with Josh Allen. That's a catastrophe.
And he does have David Montgomery as his running back too. So I could see that team going a multitude of different ways. Let's keep it broad just because we got to wrap this one up a little bit. What would you want to trade the 104 for? If not, do you just draft another QB? Are you happy with Stroud or Young just a hoard because it is 2 QBs?
I mean, if you're going to hoard, this is the type of league to do it. It's 2 QB, even more than Superflex. He bets he takes Gibbs. All right, that leaves you in a good spot. I mean, I'm probably doing everything I can to make this trade. There's at least 4 or 5 receivers that I like for that 104, right? There's Chris Olave, there's A.J. Brown, C.D. Lamb.
Well, this team, Fox, Trot, Juliet, Bravo, has Tua Tagovailoa, Kirk Cousins, and Ryan Tannehill. He also is the owner of Garrett Wilson. 104 and a 24 first for Garrett Wilson. Would you do it, Shane? That is a steep price.
I'm giving how much?
104 and a 24 first. And you can give your own if you want.
No.
Which is going to be late.
No.
Nope.
No.
104. Okay, 104, a 24 first, and Dallas Goedert for Garrett Wilson and Travis Kelce.
Oh, yeah. All right. Then I would do that.
So then you add Anthony Richardson.
But yeah, you've got to get like that extra hammer back with it.
No, it is. It is you're essentially adding the extra first for the Kelce Goddard upgrade.
Right.
And now you're rolling out Bijan, Jamar, Higgins, Amon-Ra, Waddle, Garrett Wilson, Travis Kelce, and your 3 QBs. If you don't win with that, I think we did a pretty good job of getting you to a pretty good spot if you can somehow pull that off. At least send out the offers. I'll let you kind of rant on that. A lot of times people will come back and ask us follow-up questions, which we do offer our services in direct messages to ask follow-up questions. People will come back and say, yeah, that's not going to work because this team said this or this team said that. But what do you always say, Shane? Be the offer whore, right?
Yeah, you're the one that's sending out the offers. Like you set the tempo, right? You set the market. When you set the parameters around the trade, when you send the first offer, you're the one that kind of controls the dialogue, the narrative, and which way it's going to go. People don't realize a lot of time, but as soon as you send that offer out to them and they even counter, they're already working against themselves because they're already acquiescing to what you want. Now, obviously, if they just decline it and come back with like a ridiculous offer, well, they've let you know that, no, we want nothing to do with that. But no, I mean, look, you should be the aggressive one, and you've got a ton of assets to do it. So like, this is the type of team you got to have and the type of settings that you need to add absolute smash pieces. Like, we're not adding DJ Moores to this roster. We're not adding Michael Pittmans. I like them fine enough, but not in this setup.
Yep. Yeah, and I would probably look to get one more receiver. So you have 21 roster spots. You probably want to carry 3 quarterbacks, if not 4. 5 receivers. You can afford 5 receivers because you literally have 4 top 12 receivers already. So even if you ended up just getting a 5th, I'd be good with that. You only need 1 tight end, as we talked about earlier, as Shane is taking a picture of the screen. Hi, Shane. 1 tight end, 4 quarterbacks, probably 5 receivers, and the rest running backs. So your bench, the reason you can make up for the fact that Antonio Gibson, Cam Akers, Tyler Algier, Kenneth Gainwell, and Jalen Warren are going to be your RB2 platoons, you need more of them. That's how you make up for not having Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson. If you choose to go with a quarterback, QB4 over Jahmyr Gibbs, you make it up with volume, which means you don't waste roster spots on Van Jefferson, Hunter Renfrow, Josh Palmer, Dawson Knox. You can stream your backup tight end if Goddard gets hurt, pick up a bunch of extra running backs, and this roster should be in good shape. Last question, Shane. Is this a contending team?
Yes.
How contending? And it beat the team that is listed as Hangman. It says team. Super team. Oh, man, I don't know how. Shane would love this team. Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Chris Olave, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Drake London, Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, Ramondre Stevenson, and Justin Fields.
Yeah, can he beat that team? He's going to need Justin Fields not to be what he was last year. He's going to need Christian McCaffrey to revert back to his injured self. And I mean, as much as I love JT, there's reason to be concerned about that if you've
Well, it's funny because he's starting Pat Fryermuth. So this is the reason. This team, if you pull up Dynasty data, you can see there is one super team in here. And Matt's team is basically the number 2 team. This super team, there would be a reason you would go after Travis Kelce, right? Because Travis Kelce's crushing Pat Fryermuth.
Yeah.
And you'd also go after the Burrow, Chase, Higgins stack because that's how you beat the Jalen Hurts,
AJ Brown stack. Yeah.
In a week, in a 1-week game, in a final or a semifinal, that's how you beat them.
Yeah.
And that's the context of why we were so aggressive going after that stack, because there's a super team in this league. There's a team that has, according to Dynasty Daddy, it has almost 20% more value than the rest of the teams in the league. So there you go. Anything else you can think of?
No,
Thoughts?
just going back to go get Burrow, man. Let's make that happen. And then DM us, let us know. Just feel them out. Let's see what happens. Or her, whatever.
Yeah, we expect you to be the aggressor on the trade. So hopefully gave you a lot of ideas and pointed you to the right direction in roster construction. And good luck with that one, Matt. Follow up with us if you need anything on Twitter. You can see our handles. Yeah. We're going to go to...
I got some questions.
Yeah, we're going to go back to our typical background and take some questions, and then we'll try to end this about... it's going to end up at like 10 o'clock.
All right.
Might have had a normal stream.
Clay wanted us to apologize for his slow responses. Hey, just keep emailing him, let him know you want roster reviews, folks. Did I hide that? Let's hide that. I just wanted to get to a quick one. Adam says, guess us MFL guys should leave if our roster reviews aren't welcome. We do MFL roster reviews and we do MFL. Look, most of our leagues that we play on are actually MFL.
Yeah, Shane and I love MFL. It's just it's not friendly. It's not friendly for the display of the roster reviews. Clay does a good job of cutting them up and making it look nice, but obviously Sleeper just has a better presentation to stick in the center of the screen. So,
and I absolutely love Sleeper now. I didn't always. Adam OTC, give the people the Mannequin Chill background. I'm not sure if we own the rights to that. Actually, me and Scott have discussed that in the past. We'll get back to that.
All right, we got some supers we got to get to, and then we'll try to end this before 10. Otherwise, it ends up just being our own Dynasty Trades in 5 stream, which we said would go about an hour, and it's going to go almost an hour and a half.
This is about par for the course for Mannequin Chill.
Yep. John sent us $10. Thanks, John. You 3 are the best. Keep up the great work. Going to change the name of my team to Chili Willy Nut Dust. Love it. Love it. Fun fact, we did not know anything about Chili Willy Nut Dust. Like, we didn't know it existed, and then Clay's like, hey, we have this awesome sponsor and product line.
Yeah.
Robert. Thank you, Robert, for the super chat. 12 teams start 10. Or wait a second. 1 of 2. My bad. 10 teams start 10. Tight end premium 1.5. Doesn't matter a lot. T-Law, Watson, Jimmy G, Bijan, Kenneth Walker, Aaron Jones, Madison, Gibson, Waddle, Chase, Olave, Amon-Ra, Ridley, D-Hop, Tony, Hawk, Kittle. Listed his whole team. Gave away his 24, 25, and 26 drafts. Thank you, Sleeper, for allowing to trade my entire life away.
Sleeper, man. That's look, how can you not love Sleeper? Because of Sleeper, I get questions about 26 draft picks all the time, and I love it.
But he got a bad team's 25 first, second, and he then put 4 Pacheco, Dulcich. I don't know how. How do you read that? Acquired a bad team's 25 first and second for Pacheco and Dulcich. Okay, so 2 separate transactions. He gave away all his picks, but then he somehow swindled somebody a first and a second for Isaiah Pacheco and Greg Dulcich. So well done, Robert.
I think he just wants us to applaud him. Good job.
Is this team good enough, again, in a 10-team start 10 to start moving kind of the fringe guys like Alexander Madison and Kadarius Toney? I know your answer, but I'll let you answer.
Let's see. We got T-Law and Watson, so we're 2 of the top 8 quarterbacks, 9 if you want to get all pedantic or disagree. Chase, Waddle, Olave, Amon-Ra. Yeah, what the fuck? Like, dude,
we don't need Kadarius Toney, do we?
No, Kadarius Toney doesn't matter. Madison doesn't matter. I mean, Hawkinson, what was it, 1.5? I'd be selling on the fact that it's a 1.5 and someone's going to overpay for Hawkinson in this league, to be honest with you. And the fact that he underperformed on his increased target rate last year. So, yeah, you can compete. Let's move off some of these middling assets.
All right, so quick prices. First price that comes to your mind, auto accept sell, Kadarius Toney, 10 team start 10.
Yes.
I know, for what?
Any random second
Any second,
running back.
I like that. I like that. If you could swap him for another Madison and then sell Madison for more, and maybe not Madison's current situation. Got to get somebody you can squint. It could be Madison in a month.
Mm-hmm.
What would you sell? Would you go? You said it the other night on the stream. I think you might be able to get a 26 first from a sucker.
For Madison.
For Madison. 25 is pushing it, but 26, you might be able to swindle somebody that needs a running back. I think I like that process.
Precedent's already set in this league, right? 26 picks have been swapped, so they're clearly that's been loosened up. That door's been opened. Yeah, well, keep doing it. Keep doing it.
Well, he traded his away, so he can get one back and basically just not.
That's going to be his thing. He's going to be the 26 pick guy that makes trades with 26 picks.
Yep. All right. We got a couple others. I don't know if I missed a couple of these or not, but we got this one from SU. Whenever I see SU, I think startup.
I think shut up.
That just shows where our head's at. I'm thinking Dynasty. You're thinking just get angry at people.
Yeah.
1 QB, half PPR start 9, gave up the 102 and the 103. So Jahmyr Gibbs and Jackson Smith and Jigba, and then a what is the favorite word? Trash cans or what's the other word? Trash cans and something else.
Refuse?
No.
Garbage?
No, it's not. I'll think of it. It's the same person that's been using the other term. I can't think of it. It's not trash cans. It's more creative. But anyway, for Justin Jefferson and Samaje Perine, I assume you like that, giving up JSN and Gibbs for Justin Jefferson in a start 9.
Yeah.
And he already has a top 3 contending roster. So, yeah, that's
not bad.
Nope. Great move. Nice job. Appreciate the super chat. This was another one. I don't know. Did you see if there was another question on this one, or was this it? Blind. Burks in a second or Drake London? Simple.
That was it. That's Drake London by about $1 billion.
Burks in a first for Drake London? Or is that when you're starting to pivot off London?
It's when I start to think about pivoting off London, but I'm going to look a lot harder at where that first is going to land. Because if it's anywhere like outside of 105, 105. If it's like 106 or later, I can tell myself a story where it's 106 or later. I'm fine with it.
Burks and a first or London in a second?
Burks. I mean, I'm barely, again, I'd have to investigate where that first looks likely to be. Whose roster it looks like.
So if you're squinting and you can see those first and seconds being less than 8 picks apart, you'll take the London side, I bake it then?
Yes,
yeah?
Yes.
And if it's a high first and a late second, you'd go the other way. All right. Makes sense. All right. Alexander sent us a super chat. Yeah, Fantasy Plumber. Ha, ha, ha. I have a history of saying it's only going to be an hour, and it goes an hour and a half. So if I say 30 minutes, it's going to be at least 45. This is what it is. Alexander. 10-team Superflex, start 8. How many is that, Shane? 10 times 8.
80.
What's 80 divided by 12?
Come on. That's 6.9.
Close, 6.6 or 6.66. You're pretty close. You had the right number. You were within half a point, so you're good.
I'm basically Rain Man. I mean, I got this.
All right, he trades Justin Jefferson for Bijan Robinson and DK Metcalf in a 12-team start 7. Is that where you just say, I'm taking the best player, or is the extra DK worth it here?
No, start 7. I'm not moving. I'm not moving off of Chase. It's wide receiver 1. This is where I start getting into.
Well, no, he already has Chase and Jefferson, and I assume you're just not breaking that.
It doesn't matter. I'm not moving either. No.
Okay, done. There you go, Alexander. He has spoken. Do not trade him. Well, just since he did send us very generously $20 in a super chat.
AJ Brown.
What type? Okay, so he'd need like a
CD Lamb,
literally a tier 2 receiver with Bijan to get rid of Jefferson or Chase.
It would have to be a complete overpay.
Okay. So it's basically Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, CD Lamb, AJ Brown.
I was about to say Chris Olave, but you mentioned them first.
Yes. But it's that second tier, right? Like it has to be another top 8 receiver, which I'm guessing as soon as someone puts that in my inbox, I'm going to laugh and go, why would I do that? I'll just keep the 2. All right. Pillsbury Doughboy. We've got a couple left. Pillsbury Doughboy, 14-team, start 9, half PPR, and 1.0 tight end premium. I assume he just adds 0.5 there. Got Herbert, and then traded his 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. and his 24 first. So I was really vibing with that deal until I saw that 24 first. I haven't looked at the second part yet. But he got Fields, a 7, and a 9. So he definitely violated one of the rules there, Shane. Do you like that trade, or is that too much for Fields? In a 14 team, I bet you he has the best QB room. 14 team start 9. Is it worth it to give up that extra 24 first?
Man, he gave up an extra 24 first. Oh, but he got Fields a 7 and the 9.
A 4 for 3. Instead of 2, 3, and 4 for 1, 7, and 9, he threw in the extra 24 first, which is one of those rules we try to not break.
I mean, I wish it would have been someone other than Fields, but yeah, I'm okay with it. No, you know what? I'm not. And
then he has Fields, Herbert, and then he has 8 picks between round 6 and 10. So he stayed within a picks amount. He has 10 picks in the top 10 rounds, which is what you want. He just gave up his 24 first.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, look, the 6 and 10, he's going to be fine. I tell you what, I'm trying to move. Can I move that 6 for a first? Let's shop the shit out of that.
Or how about my 5? Can I move that for a 9?
Does he still have the 5?
I think he has. He says he acquired 8 picks, 6 through 10. So I'm guessing he still has his 5. So he must have gotten an extra pick, unless he moved back from the 5 and got 2 pieces or something, or 2 picks. You know what I mean? Yeah. We don't know exactly, but
let's look to move our 5th for a 24 first and recoup it. 5th or the 6th. I do.
If I can move a 5th or a 6th and get back like a 24 first and a 10th, 11th, or 12th, I would do it.
Yeah.
And just pick an extra player there, because you're banking on the Fields Herbert start already. And it's not like you don't know what your team is yet in terms of like, is it going all in to win? So I like it, though. I like the trade up in a 14 team.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, look, this is where I get a little nervous. Fields still makes me nervous. I don't know why, but he just does. Even though I know, I just wrote up for the DLF article about why it almost doesn't matter if the dude improves as a passer, even fucking at all. He's still going to be an elite quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah. Rayos said he never understood these trades that happen with 10 pieces at a time, 10 assets a piece.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. So a lot of times, Rayos, I'll get DMs from people, and they'll send me this just
7 for 7.
And I'm like, I don't even understand what the purpose of this is, right? Like,
yeah.
And I literally ask people, and I'm not saying it to be a dick. I'm like, what is it that you're trying to do here? You know what I mean? Like, are you just trading to trade a bunch of shit because it's cool? Fine. But like, I know I seem impulsive, but most of my trades, there's a thought process behind it. There's something that I'm trying to do. There's a result that I'm shooting for. Those large ass trades, I'm not really sure what you're trying to do other than look cool that you made a big trade. But yeah,
I struggle with those too, because I sit there and I wonder what is the angle. I'm looking for the couple players where I can justify the reason you sent the trade.
Right.
I have a hard time evaluating a trade if I don't see a leverage. I don't see a clear 3 for 2. I don't see a pick swap. They are hard to decipher. And a lot of times it feels like I go to Shane. Hey, Shane, can I get Chris Olave? Which would mean no. But then he goes, okay, then I want Devontae Smith. And I would say, okay, then I want Ramondre Stevenson. Okay, then I want Breece Hall. All of a sudden we've just traded teams.
Yeah.
What's the point?
Yes.
All right. I don't know who sent this super chat, but it was way too cheap. It should have had another 5. It should have had another 0 on it. But anyway, said he's literally burning money asking this. YouTube gets 45% of the cut. So that is burning money. So thank you for putting our own money back into the stream and giving YouTube 45% of it. Great job. That's how businesses make a profit, right?
Yeah. So I think this is Clay's very bad marketing way of, I guess, my Shane's day is going to be dropping shortly, because apparently people care about what I do during my day. I can't imagine anyone cares about what I do during my day. Like, I have a quick story. So my kid, he had to go to get a test at school today, and also talk to a psychologist. Psychologist asked my son, what does your dad do for a living? My 14-year-old son, mind you, lives with me like all the time in the summer. I've also known him, well, his entire life, all 14 years. No idea. He has no idea what I do.
He knows like where you work and stuff, right?
I don't think so. He definitely doesn't know what I do.
You talk to your friends on the computer all the time. I know that.
Yeah. My youngest, this just brings up my youngest thought I was a cop for several years. No idea why. Just literally no idea why. He thought I was a cop. But no. So yeah, the Shane Day video is going to be dropping soon. So that's going to be exciting stuff. But just beautiful life lessons and deep thoughts and shit like that.
Yeah, that should be dropping soon. It should be an entertaining look. The best part about Shane is they're just literally clips and highlights for days, and he's not even trying to create them. That is probably one of the most redeeming things about you, Shane. You were just so naturally charming and funny in any situation.
I am charming.
It makes the show. It makes the show, my friend. All right, last one. David says, if we want a roster review, where should we send the email that you have in the description, or what should we send the email in the description? So our understanding is you send an email to the email that we had in the overlay, which I need to pull back up so everybody can see it. And of course, it's covered by the question. So good job, Scott. Roster review at dynastytrades5.com. That is not manned by Shane or I. So send everything there. Life questions. Anything not related to a roster review. The person behind that will answer. But no. What should they send, Shane? What should they put in the title?
Money. Send money.
That's how it works. Literally just send an inquiry. Interested in a roster review.
Yeah, look, Drew had it right. I wasn't looking at what Drew said. This first thing that popped in my head: money. Send money, and maybe your roster.
Yes, but the point is, you want to send an inquiry. Clay will respond. There's a really exhaustive form that you will fill out. You will provide all the information on your team, and we can get it cut into an overlay like this, so we can do a roster review similar to what you saw. But please send the inquiries over to roster review at dynastytrades5.com.
And I just, I need to feel the need to put up Felix's comment from Campus to Canton. Great dude. But also just to show off that I am absolutely destroying this Campus to Canton draft. I have all of the 5-star freshman prospects. I'm going to destroy this league eventually, probably in like 7 years when these guys graduate. That's how college works, right?
Next week on Dynasty Trades in 5, all about Campus to Canton and all about the 2026 NFL draft class.
2026 is too soon, bro. You got to start looking at 2027.
We're already talking about the 2027, so it's going to be the current high school seniors. You already been scouting them for next year's supplemental drafts?
Yeah. I've been told.
Tune in next week. It'll be an hour and a half of questions and answers for Shane about high school players and incoming freshmen.
Several times, and several high schools have asked me to stop coming around.
That's the perfect way to end the show. Roster review at dynastytrades5.com. Send an inquiry for a roster review. We have multitude of options that you can use. It can be a live review like this with you there.
One more thing.
What's that?
Clay would get angry at me. Matt Frenchie is also
gifting. Oh yeah, we forgot this. He's giving away a review, right?
Giving away a roster review. So Clay said basically, I forget.
Well, you and I don't know how to run like that spinny thing that Clay does.
Yeah.
We just like to be entertained by it. So I am assuming in the future Clay will give that away. Maybe.
Clay, Clay texts us way too much. He'll do a live stream drawing. So coming up, thanks to Matt, at some point there's going to be a live stream drawing for somebody that wins a roster review. Shout out to Matt. Really fucking cool of you, dude.
Yeah, Matt, that's appreciated. There's a lot of people that would love to see a roster of theirs, even if it's just Shane and I recording it and sending it to them. We're also going to do some where you can like sit in with us and just like talk back and forth. That's a little bit of a more informal review, but obviously you can get some live Q&A if you want to do that. But send an email, roster review at Dynasty Trades in 5. Clay will get back to you. He'll send you the Google form. You can talk to him about the payment options and all that kind of stuff. But we appreciate everybody for tuning in. Shane, final words. We went an hour and 24 minutes when I said we're only going to go 45, and we were over 300 the entire time. That's pretty cool. For a stream we didn't announce. We just hit live.
I like it. All right. I guess apparently we're going to have to do this more often.
Yeah, without Clay, right? We just replaced his face with something Dynasty related in the middle. Sorry, Clay.
I was just going to put a picture of like SpongeBob in the middle. But yeah, same difference.
Anyway,
all right.
We'll be back next Tuesday, 8:30, live stream with the three of us. Trio will be back. There'll be a live roster review giveaway with the little spinny thing that Clay does. where I just love watching that because it's always the name or two that you see is not the one that wins. It's always like the next one or the one after that. So that's always fun to see who just missed out. But we'll be back. Appreciate everybody tuning in for this Manic and Chill going back in time. Stay tuned for something similar that may be in the works going forward. But we'll see you next Tuesday night.